Coming up on This Week in Computer Hardware, NVIDIA GTX 960. The rumors are flowing. Crucial's got new SSDs. Check out these crazy case designs from Deepcool, Corsair, and Fantek's NZXT DOKO, Razer Turret, viewer questions, and more. It's all coming up next on Twitch.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is Twitch.
Bandwidth for Twitch is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Twitch, This Week in Computer Hardware, episode 298, recorded January 15, 2015. GTX 960, mad cases, and new SSDs.
This episode of This Week in Computer Hardware is brought to you by IT Pro TV. Are you looking to upgrade your IT skills or prepare for certification? IT Pro TV offers engaging and informative tutorials streamed to your Roku, computer, or mobile device. For a free 7-day trial and 30% off the lifetime of your account, go to itpro.tv/Twitch and use the code TWiCH30.
Welcome to Twitch, This Week in Computer Hardware, Twitch weekly show that aims to bring you the most useful, most delightful, most engaging, and quite possibly most contagious news about PC hardware, Macintosh hardware, tablets, phones, and today, ladies and gentlemen, we may even be talking about augmenting pets. No, actually, we probably won't be talking about that. Ryan's probably staring at his monitor right now going, what is his damage?
I don't remember seeing that in the show notes. Oh, crap. I need to go research on what that is. If there's anything contagious, I guess I'm glad we're separated by about 2,100 miles in this particular instance. So
there was a small vomiting 2-year-old in my lap this morning. So, you know, yes, 2,100 miles is just about far enough to keep that from contaging you. Just enough. Just possibly.
Fair enough.
I'll try not to drive to Florence, Kentucky this weekend with a vomiting toddler. Nothing says friendship like showing up with a vomiting toddler. To completely change the subject before I completely lose the audience, Corsair Carbide 330R Titanium Quiet Mid-Tower Case review. The case so delightful, so charming. We're opening the show with it. Lee Garbett wrote this up for PCPer.com, and it's kind of interesting. This is a fairly sedate case. Or am I just, you know, it seems, I mean that in kind of a positive, supportive Corsair. I love it when you do something without giant windows or, you know, crazy lighting schemes. I may be over windows, man.
Yeah, except in some special cases, I would tend to agree with you. Most of the time, the components aren't that much worth looking at, or you're looking at the wrong side of them anyway. Right. But the Carbide 330R Titanium is really it's a modification of a case that they had already been selling. The Titanium edition, as it was or as it is, basically means that you have a different color face plate. It's a grayish, silverish, titanium looking thing. It's not actually made of titanium. I hate to disappoint everybody. But it is not actually made out of titanium. It just looks like it might be. And it also adds I think it's a 3-position fan controller just inside the front door panel as well. So it's just a couple of minor differences. It is a low-cost case. It's like $89, I think.
I should point out, it's low cost, but it's not cheap, right? Because you're looking at sound damping material on most of the surfaces on the inside of the case. You're looking at a nice layout, you know, the option of opening up the, you know, I mean, there's cover on the top of them, which I think is a really big deal. I'm really frustrated by, you know, PC cases that are pretty much designed to allow dust fall through the top of the case, no matter what you're doing up there. But it looks like they're really generous with the sound absorption material on the inside of the case panel. So I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, I have had the original 330R, which basically shares the same build quality and feature set and everything, and it's actually a really, really good case. It really is. You know, the hinge door. I'm kind of not a front of case door type of person. They tend to swing open at times I don't want them to, or they swing open the wrong direction, or they get things caught in them. Or they swing open
and get kicked off.
Yeah.
I have like
two breakable part.
I have two cases with front doors that the front doors are not attached to the case. I'd also like to point out that I may be the bull in the china shop, but I am not actually the person who kicked the doors off the front of the cases. Just wanted to bring that up.
It's just something that can happen, right? So I tend to like just the cleaner face, but this does have a door. And in terms of styling, like it does make it look much nicer. Keeps the front of everything looking very clean, but it still has a lot of the Corsair features, the cable routing openings. It still has the toolless hard drive trays and optical drive trays. And actually, one of the pictures, I think it was the picture on the front, but it's a matte black finish. And if you happen to have a motherboard that has a matte black finish, like actually they have a Sabertooth board in there from Asus that has kind of like what they call the armor over the PCB, and it all kind of blends in. Not necessarily a feature of the case, but it does look pretty neat. But otherwise, yeah, that's the shot right there. So with the armor, it kind of makes the motherboard blend in with the back of the case some, which I think is actually kind of a neat little illusion, if you will. But $89. It's full-size ATX. Actually, I think it'll do eATX as well as full-size ATX, micro ATX, mini ITX. Although I guess using a mini ITX motherboard in it seems a little bit wasteful in space, considering you literally can't use the majority of the space in the chassis that way.
Right.
Just a little modification of what has been in an existing selling part for some time. I guess it was just maybe middle of 2014, middle of last year. So not too recently, but easy to build in, easy to look at, and it's fairly easy on the wall. You can definitely buy cheaper cases still, but for one that has this type of feature set and a couple of included fans, one of them is 140, one of them is 120 millimeter. $90 is a pretty good purchase rate.
That's a pretty good deal. That's a nice case.
Yep.
I like it. CES 2015 Crucial launches a new MX200 BX100 SSDs and introduces Storage Executive. I'm going to brazenly assume that Storage Executive is a management tool.
Yeah, it sounds pretty accurate. So we just had a couple of things kind of left over from our CES coverage. This one was the one that was most interesting to me, I think, mainly because the Crucial BX100, which is a new line of SSDs that they announced, is kind of like the replacement for the MX100 in terms of the low cost, what they call high quality entry level SSD. And it's interesting because it goes all the way up to 1 terabyte. The MX100 only went up to 500 or 512. And its kind of starting price is, well, I mean, its performance is really actually pretty damn good. They're quoting 530 megabytes per second reads and 450 megabytes per second writes for what is considered a budget drive that will have a starting launch price for a 1 terabyte drive of $399. And 512 gig will be $199, so exactly half of that. So they're launching these at 40 cents a gig or 39.9 cents a gig pricing right off the bat, and you got to expect that initially they'll sell for that, and in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, several months, they will be even lower than that. Continuing this fantastic trend of pushing prices down on solid state drives. So it doesn't look like a drastic change technologically, but at this point with SATA based SSDs, I don't think that's what anybody's particularly looking for. You take the Samsung 850 EVO or 850 Pro, fantastic high performance drives, but at the end of the day, I think more people value the cost per gigabyte than they do that extra 40, 50, or 60 megabytes per second of performance when it comes to your standard SATA drives. As we get into PCIe and NVMe and SATA Express and M.2, those things will change as we have access to more available bandwidth. But we're pretty much maxing out SATA 3 for reads and almost every kind of top-end SSD from all these vendors. So something to look out for. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems so expensive now. Look at SSDs.
$399 for 1 terabytes for one terabyte rather.
Yeah, I don't know. I laugh because I was laughing when I was thinking about that because I literally have an 850 Evo that I just bought in my bag. I was like, yeah, that's spendy for an SSD. And the fact that it would have been $300 for a 128 gigabyte drive 2 years ago is completely eluding me at the moment. I don't know. It's funny how suddenly the cheap is the new normal.
Yep. That's how he gets the new cheap.
It's a good point. This is something kind of crazy. I saw this at CES for about 30 seconds. At least or saw something very much like this at CES for about 30 seconds. The Deepcool Tri-Stellar. This picture is up from Legit Reviews. Sebastian wrote this over PCPro.com. This is a crazy mini ITX enclosure. It's, you know, the aesthetics are, this is one of those classic PC case designs where you're immediately going to go, I want it, because it looks like something that's being launched off the Battlestar Galactica. It looks like a Viper, or you're going to look at it and go, what on earth were they thinking? It's a pretty crazy layout. Notice there's actually enough space for a full-length card, you know, optical drives. It's a pretty crazy layout. And then if you scroll down a little bit, the other one in this article is the Pen Tower Mini ITX case, which obviously owes a little something to our friends down in Cupertino. This is not a round, shiny black cube. It's more of a, you know, pentagonal. I don't know what the name of that particular block from my kid's set is. You know, large. You know what I mean? Like, what's the pentagon shape? But it's not flat. It's the, you know, but obviously very similar to the Mac Pro thermal design.
It's interesting on that one. Sorry, on that one, it's if you look at the, if you kind of like look at the, it's obviously not a build. It's a it's a rendering, but it holds normal components in it, right? Remember that the Mac Pro is small and tiny because it has very specific form factor to it, right? Like it's not a standard off-the-shelf desktop GPU. This will hold a standard off-the-shelf desktop mini ITX and desktop GPU. So it may be similarly shaped, but I would not consider it to be similarly sized.
And I should point out that Sebastian was very clear about pointing out this was not built on the Mac's cooling design where the CPU and GPU are directly connected to a large central heat sink, that they've implemented their own air cooling system inside of that tower. That one you're looking at right now, I believe, is the actual Mac Pro thermal design, and the Deepcool one is not set up in that fashion. Don't believe availability or pricing is up at the Deepcool website, and I'm looking at that right now. We do, however, have the Game of Thrones inspired Land King case on the front page.
Sure, why not? Of course.
Let's see, mini tower and mid tower. I am not seeing any signs of these cases on there. So keep an eye out if that looks like an interesting build. It's funny, like there's just more. I don't know, cases. I like cases. I like new case designs. I don't know if I want to build the one that looks like a Viper, but if I say Viper 2 or 3 more times, I'll be all about the Stellar.
I can't. I want to see. I want to either build in it or see somebody else build in it, because I can't decide if it's going to be as nightmarish to work inside of as it looks like it is.
Either the cable routing is going to be really easy, or the cable routing is going to be really hard, and there's going to be nothing. It's either going to be this easy or all of the. It's going to be all of the easy or all of the hard, and absolutely nothing in between those two.
Right.
Fantex Enthoo Mini XL quote. This is the case you want if you want to build 2 systems in one case. Sebastian also wrote this up. This is kind of crazy. So Fantex has a new form factor they're calling the Super Micro ATX, a large, because, you know, that's where it's like the one last hole in the industry now, because after 10 years of moving away from gigantic desktop cases, apparently it's time to move back to gigantic desktop cases. A, quote, large alternative to standard MATX designs that has the advantage of supporting 2 complete systems within a single case. So, to hell with your virtual machines.
Patrick, I hate to interrupt. Can you start that story over? I totally accidentally had Josh Walworth slower third up. Just be all easier on Zach.
In 3, 2. So after several years, a decade of the industry moving away from giant desktop PC cases and making them smaller and smaller, the crew at Fantex is doing something a little different with the Enthoo Mini XL. Sebastian wrote this up for PC Per. Quote, want to build 2 systems in one case, then you need the Fantex Enthoo Mini XL. Fantex is calling it the Super Micro ATX form factor, a new enclosure style, a, quote, large alternative to standard MATX designs that has the advantage of supporting 2 complete systems within a single case, because really, who needs a virtual machine. Second motherboard gets supported by their ITX upgrade kit. So basically, you have to have a mini ITX motherboard for the secondary platform.
Right.
Quote, while this might appeal to a very small market, there is a need for running discrete systems for some users, and this design is certainly an interesting alternative to running 2 boxes. There's going to be a lot of heat in that box, especially in the configuration you're looking at right there, which, if I'm not mistaken, is that running 1, 2, 3 GTX 670s?
Yep. You got a mini ITX with 1 video card up top, and you've got a micro ATX with 2 video cards at the bottom.
It's getting hot in here. Water cool everything.
Well, see what's a little disappointing to me. They're actually only they've got like the big kind of water cooling thing there has a custom water cooling block on the main processor on the bottom system, but they're using a self-contained water cooler for the top system. You know, there are 2 different power supplies, so in theory you should be able to water cool both of these together, but you would have to. Like, there'd have to be some kind of safety mechanism in place there that you're not ever going to be running one of the systems without both of them running or something like that, because you would, you know, you want to make sure that the pump for that reservoir and the fans are going to be, you know, operational at all times. But there was a case like this many years ago that was, I think it might have been a Lian Li case. That was a big cube and it was on 4 wheels. And it had the 2 motherboard back plates were, you know, opposing, and then you would have one case like normal and one would be like upside down for you to build the second system in. And it was, you know, same idea, only it was full ATX cases, might have even been, you know, larger than that for server and workstation class products. I still don't know if I see a really important use case, like a useful use case for a setup like this, unless you want to have a separate file system. Or a separate system for like a file server, and you don't want it to be your same machine, but you're okay with it being in the same chassis. I don't know. I mean, you could, if you have, say you're married and you play a lot of PC games with your wife, and you want to have one machine, and you have 2, you know, you've got separate keyboard, mice, and monitors going to 2 different desks from it. Yeah, the only thing you're really saving here is maybe on a case. And chances are this case is more expensive than regular cases.
Yeah, and there's no pricing on the case design right now. You know, well, it's funny because it's, you know, you look at the back of the case and it's just, there's a lot going inside of there. And it's like, well, you know, you're saving money on a power. No, those are 2 power supplies inside that case. Like, as you're looking at the back of it, 2 complete motherboards, 2 power supplies, 2 back planes, 2 sets of card slots. It's you know, yeah, it's 2 systems built in 1 case. Just like I remember Yoshi, you know, fitting like a PlayStation and an Xbox and a PC and a Nintendo and everything else inside of a case. Obviously simpler to do here. I'm sure there's a reason for it. You want your home theater PC separate from your gaming machine, but you don't have enough space for 2 cases. You know, this is, I think we're both sure that someone somewhere right now should email TWiCH, TWiCH at twit.tv, or tweet at Ryan Shrout or at Patrick Norton, because this is the case you've been waiting for years, and now somebody has finally built it, and we want to know exactly what you're going to use it for.
Please let me know. Yes.
Oh my goodness. NVIDIA GeForce GTX 960 specs and synthetic benchmarks leaked, which goes hand in hand with the more NVIDIA GTX 960 sightings. Galaxy's KFA2 GTX 960 lineup reportedly pictured. I'm guessing at this point, I'm going to ask you rather than digging through Sebastian's article, but I feel comfortable with saying a 960 is coming.
It would seem to be incoming. Yes. When you start to get multiple vendors showing pictures of boxes and cards, I don't think there's any pictures of it in this post, but we've seen MSI has had some out there. I think maybe Galaxy has had some. KFA, obviously these are the ones that are pictured here. Interestingly, the first picture there is like of the GTX 960 reference design that has a cooler that looks almost identical to that of the GTX 760, which I hope it has different characteristics, because the GTX 760 had one of the worst reference coolers in terms of sound and like this annoying high pitched whine, not a coil whine, but just like the fan just had a horrible sound to it. But I think a lot of these guys are going to have custom designs like that one, where you've got custom coolers that are going to be much more quiet, much more efficient, and should be what you're looking for.
You call it a terrible reference design.
Yeah.
I call it an extraordinary opportunity for vendors to make their products look amazing compared to the initial round of testing on the vendor. I think it's very thoughtful.
It's exactly what NVIDIA says. It's exactly what NVIDIA says. We got to leave room for our partners to improve on our designs, things like that. And then, go ahead.
Okay, so it's like 1,024 CUDA cores. Based on the Maxwell GM206, according to the rumors. Essentially, is that pretty much the same part that the GTX 965M is running on, or a cousin to it?
I actually don't know the answer to that. I don't know what the 965M is actually running on.
Okay.
I don't know. I have to look. The specifications here, if these are accurate, is essentially it's like half of a 980, right? It looks like half the cores, half the memory bus, all that stuff. If that actually turns out to be the case, I don't know. It probably won't have exactly half of the performance. It could be half the price or less. Let's see. I guess the 549 or so is kind of where the 980 is at now, and then the 970 is already at 329 or 339. So it's got to be under that. So you're thinking 250 or lower for a 960 without really knowing much about it in terms of performance or feature set at this point. But there shouldn't be any surprise features. It's not going to have anything amazing. It's just going to be more of a discussion of where does it sit performance-wise and then pricing-wise compared to other NVIDIA parts as well as AMD parts.
It seems like it's going to need to be a really huge price. I mean, it's got to be at least $100 less than the GTX 970, because you're talking about assuming the rumors are true, you're talking about like 600-something CUDA cores, 640 fewer CUDA cores than the 970. It just seems like it's a big, it's a pretty healthy step down from the 970 to the 960.
Yeah, if the specs are right, then yes, it would be. So yeah, I think $100 is probably about the right ballpark to guess in. Right. To be honest with you, like I have whatever these products, we don't know anything about pricing or anything like that. They don't, even if they were launching it, they don't tell you that until like 12 hours before anyway. So no clue. It could be. Maybe when they ask me what they should charge for, I say $38. That's what I answer every time. How much should this card be? It should be $38. And one day somebody's going to take my advice and it'll be amazing and everybody should thank me. But for now, we just kind of have to guess.
They'll make up the losses in volume. The loss in each individual card in volume.
Yeah.
Very pets.com
I'm sure
of you.
some accountant will figure it out. It's not my problem.
This is what we call a loss leader. Radeon R9 380X features, quote, LinkedIn post hints at Radeon R9 380X features and stacked memory. Tell me, Mr. Shrout, what is a stacked memory?
A stacked memory. We're on the next story there, Burke. You're one link behind. The 380X, I find this incredibly interesting that there would be two people that would have leaked information about an upcoming GPU from AMD on their LinkedIn profile page, and that both of those discoveries would kind of be made at essentially the same time. Seems a little fishy, like maybe it was kind of leaked on purpose or something, try to build some excitement. I don't really know that for sure or anything. But a stacked die is when you, as exactly as it sounds, is when you have one die stacked on top of the other. What's most commonly used for is if you have, if you want to have super high bandwidth memory sitting very, very close to the chip. You can actually build it on top of it and connect it. In this case, they're actually talking about a 300 watt 2.5D transistor GPU using stacked die, high bandwidth memory, and a silicon interposer. And so the interposer, so you've all probably seen chips that have two actual pieces of silicon on a single substrate, right? So imagine like Haswell or Broadwell, where you've got the CPU die, but then you've got like the chipset portion up on there as well. Now, those are typically connected through the substrate itself, not like on a piece of silicon. An idea of a silicon interposer is you have those two different chips that would actually be sitting on a separate piece of silicon interposer that basically allows for more direct communication, faster communication, than even going over, say, just a substrate bus, right?
Right.
That would be the idea that this LinkedIn stuff is kind of referring to. So we saw something similar to this if you look at the Xbox 360 or the Xbox One APUs, or those chips where they had. Remember, the Xbox One has a slower, has fewer shaders on its GPU, but it has on-die memory or on-chip memory that allows it to have super high bandwidth memory for a small portion of that, right? And it uses that to make up some of the performance deficits of having fewer shader processors. And in theory, this would be able to do something similar, right? You'd be able to get improved performance in certain circumstances, of which I really don't know what those would be. But you would see generally better performance when you have some amount of on-die memory. The real curious thing will be how much it is, right? You're not going to get a 4 GB frame buffer on a silicon interposer in any kind of effective, cost-efficient way, or cost-effective way, I guess. So that's interesting. You know, they mentioned 380X specifically. They mentioned 300 watt, right? So that's actually going 10 watts higher. A 300 watt GPU would be 10 watts higher than the Radeon R9 290X that sells today. So they're going up a little bit in power. And keep in mind that the AMD or the NVIDIA GTX 980 actually went down to like 180 or 165 on its TDP with the 980 and the 970. So if that's true, if these rumors are true, right, these LinkedIn leaks, as they are being called, are true, then AMD is going the opposite direction of NVIDIA. And consumers, enthusiasts are perfectly fine with the 300 watt GPU as long as they can justify the performance and performance per watt and performance per dollar of it. So we'll see. I don't know when. And I think both of these, let me see, I think both of these LinkedIn posts had been, actually, no, one of them is still live. It says that mentions 380X specifically, calling it the king of the hill GPUs. Yeah, I don't know.
King of the GPUs. That sounds so dramatic.
Yeah.
Game of GPUs. So. You win or you die. On a completely different but slightly related subject, NZXT enters the set-top box market with the DOKO remote PC streaming device. Sebastian was busy at PC Pro this week. Quote, an interesting spin on the living room streaming box, a lot more than another Netflix player. According to NZXT, DOKO is a low latency, 50 to 80 millisecond, 1080p, 30 frames per second PC streaming device that brings you the full functionality for PC anywhere in your home, which is interesting. You know, it's not the hugest fan of streaming gaming, as much as I love NVIDIA's wondrous attempts to bring PC games to any screen in your home, which is great. Or, you know, if you need that, because, you know, we talked about the Razer Forge TV on Tech Thing this week, and it was really funny. Because somebody went berserk in the comments. They're like, all you talked about was it being an Android gaming device. You didn't mention they can stream PC games, you morons. They didn't say morons, but that was what they kind of implied. I think we were stuck up gaming weasels or something, tech snobs. But I bring this up because we spent like 15 or 20 minutes in the Razer booth at CES, which is not a huge amount of time, except at CES it is. And they didn't really mention the streaming PC games aspect of it, which I thought it was really interesting because they're promising with the Razer Forge TV that it's going to be any DX9 game or higher, not just a select set of games. If you do the Razer Cortex Stream, which will be bundled with the Razer Forge TV if you get their servo remote control or the Razer Turret. By the way, the Razer Turrets are really cool. Did you get hands-on with the Razer Turret, the living room gaming mouse and laptop?
I did not. But the idea of a... Did you? I mean, is it good?
Yeah, I mean, for like 5 or 10 minutes, I liked it. There's I don't know if you can see the link down there at the bottom, Burke, but it's essentially, it starts out as this sort of folded keyboard in a docking station, and you pull it up, you unfold it, and it's 2/3 of it's a keyboard, and 1/3 of it, or half of it, because math is hard, is this sort of magnetic mousing service. And there's a Bluetooth mouse that comes with it, and it felt really good. I mean, compared to some of the mini attempts, about 2/3, 1/3, I'd say on that split. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to do any really serious gaming with it, but I got a few minutes hand-on at the show. But if you buy the Razer Forge TV bundled with their servo remote or the turret keyboard and gaming mouse, you also get the Razer Cortex streaming system for free. It's going to be, it's actually going to be around like the second quarter of 2015, or you can buy it for like $40. And the rumor is you'll be able to stream like any Android gaming device, probably with a monthly fee on top of that. I really like that's the turret, the keyboard design, and the mouse has a little magnet in it. It helps it stick it, keep it from if you pull it off your lap from wandering all over the place. It seems like a really well thought out design. Razer Forge TV will do the video game streaming out of the box. It's going to be an Android gaming console. But I bring that up because there's, we're not seeing a whole lot of the sort of Steam machines, the Steam boxes this year. In fact, I thought I saw like Dell's kind of mock-up of one, but after the big deal they made last year, Valve made last year, it's interesting that this year all we saw was a bunch of these small Android gaming boxes, or in this case, Android gaming boxes / streaming boxes. I think it's interesting that NZXT is doing it as a stream anything on your computer, 30 frames per second. That Razer Forge TV is supposed to do 60 frames per second, 1080p TV. But that would be pretty manageable, like 30 to 50 milliseconds. Not perfect, but certainly well within the usability range for most human beings. $99 box. If it's another way. If you can't, like what I did was basically plug my gaming machine into an HDMI port on my home theater, my AVR. But they're talking about straight from NZXT's online store for $99 at the end of January.
Does the Razer one do? So the Razer one's kind of like an independent device. NZXT one's more like a PC extender because it even uses like USB over IP. I think for gaming, the 50 to 80 millisecond latency is going to be pretty noticeable. But for everything else, I think that should be pretty good. Like if you're looking to watch content, browse the web or whatever, and you don't want to either build a home theater PC to put down there or move it or run like a super long HDMI cable. If you have a good network in your house, then you can just kind of do that. So they're supposedly sending us one to try out. So I'm eager to see kind of how that latency works, how much it affects things. And Josh did make a comment when he saw the demo that like playing back 24p video content can be a little bit of an issue because it's a 30 frames per second transfer, right? So they're trying to figure out a way around
that. 3-2 pull down hell.
Like you're in the worst possible case, and plus it's compressing a little bit because it's all going over the network. So, definitely something worth looking at, though.
It is. I'm assuming that the Razer Forge TV, because it's working with Cortex, is going to be a competitor to Steam's streaming games, because the Cortex is kind of like its game hub and launcher. We'll find out, when people start getting hands on it. Valve Steam in-home streaming, NVIDIA Game Stream, and then Razer seems to be a third alternative to that, because what the world needs is more ways to get the games you have or don't have to the box you have or don't have. I don't know. I'll be curious to actually get hands-on with that when it starts to ship.
Yep.
We wait with bated breath, ladies and gentlemen. You have something in common with my co-host on Tech Thing, Shannon Morse, a.k.a. Snubs. You, too, bought an Amazon
co-host
Echo.
A show with you?
That, too.
Okay.
But usually people aren't so proud to shout that out. I'm going to ask, did you buy it because it seemed like the ideal sort of Amazon? I laugh, right? Because it's like it's a wireless music streaming speaker case thing.
Sure.
And it's hands-free voice activated, and it's always listening. It's just waiting for you to speak.
Yeah.
Always ready, connected, and fast.
I bought it because it was $99, and I like to buy things, I guess, right? So it's just another gadget, right? It's just a thing. Right. It's like, okay, sure, I'll try it. And let me say what I've been impressed with it so far. It is the voice recognition is very good. It does a very good job of finding you in the room. It kind of has a light that points at you when you actually talk to it. It's incredibly fast. It is much faster than Google Now or Siri in terms of recognizing the speech and then communicating like back and forth to you.
Do you think it's because it's over like the Wi-Fi network and not
the cellular or something like that?
Cellular network?
I think it's probably more that it has like a processor in there that's literally doing nothing else, right? It's not trying to balance background application. Because like if you say, you know, Alexa, play royalty-free music, and actually it heard me across the room. Actually, okay, there it goes. Yeah, so now I'm going to have to turn it off in the thing. Alexa, stop. So it does that very quickly.
Alexa is its name. That's the keyword it's
correct.
It's listening for. So if there's someone named Alexa in your house, can you change it or
you can change it to Amazon?
Okay,
that's it. Those are your only two, and that's because they say in the documentation that the keyword, the engaging word, is hard coded into the logic, right? And that's kind of one of the reasons why it's so good at pointing it out. It's hard coded into that. So does a very good job with that. The music, you know, you can use Prime Music if you have a Prime account, right? So that's like the free streaming service, but it's kind of limited in what you have there. If you've uploaded anything to your music library through Amazon, you can access it that way, right? You can say, you know, play Mighty Mighty Boss Tones or whatever it is. As long as you have it uploaded there, it's fine. And then you can like listen to the radio for it with it, like through iHeartRadio. And I found this kind of cool. It's like you can say, hey, what's this song? And it'll tell you what it is. You can say, hey, I want to buy that. And then it'll take you to the store. And it's like, you want to buy the song or the album? It's like, buy the whole album. It's $6. Okay. And then it'll do that transaction purely through voice, no other interaction necessary.
Because when they announced it, they said they didn't expect to launch with these sort of buying stuff feature in place.
The only thing you can buy is music.
Okay, but you can't like ask it to order you a box of diapers or send you a, you know, CKRT Tomahawk or something like that. I mean, I feel like that's
the best you can do is add to your shopping list or add to your to-do list. So you could say, you know, add milk to my shopping list, add soap to the shopping list, and it generates a shopping list and it keeps it. And then when you open up your Amazon Echo app on your phone, you know, your iOS or Android phone, it has those items listed there. And you can, there will be a link next to it that says, hey, you can search for that product on Amazon if you want. Or, you know, it's while you're out shopping. So the main problem I have with it is it would be way cooler, way more useful if it were a Google product. Because Google knows my calendar, Google knows my travel schedule, Google knows all my emails and my messages. So if I could say, hey, when's my next appointment? Or how long is it going to take me to drive home? Google would be able to know those answers. And Amazon doesn't because of the access to my data that it has is limited.
So, you know, are you pining for the days of the Nexus Q, the short-lived days of the Nexus Q?
Yeah, I mean, like the speaker does sound pretty good. It's not fantastic. It sounds pretty good. It's Bluetooth. You can listen to your podcast on it. I was actually surprised. I just on a whim, I said, you know, listen to This Week in Computer Hardware, and it actually uses TuneIn. It found the podcast, downloaded the most recent episode, and started playing it. And I was like, wow, awesome. Okay. Some of the stuff it does is really cool. They've done a good job of you know, kind of looking for those side cases. Anytime it repeats something, if you want to say, hey, Alexa, repeat that, it will do that. And it kind of give you, you know, whatever it just last said. But to me, without access to the rest of the data, it's kind of less than ideal in terms of usefulness.
I mean, one, I'll be curious to see if Google comes out with something that's a little bit more like this, because it's interesting because, you know, you can stream Spotify or iTunes or Pandora to this as a, you know, using Bluetooth. It's a curious device, right? Because it's kind of partially locked down to Amazon and it's partially open. You know, they have alarms, they have timers, they have lists, but it's all, you know, I wonder if this is sort of, it's an interesting idea, right? That Amazon's, you know, especially after the kind of, you know, obviously this was probably being planned while Amazon was working on its ill-fated phone, you know, and the people who are much more interesting and smarter than I am are calling it ill-fated. It just didn't work out the way the tablets did for Amazon. But it's really interesting that Amazon would come up with like the thing that sits in the corner of your house plugged into the wall and waiting for you to speak. Because that, you know what I mean? Like, you know, did all of the, you know, is this something that Google should have done instead of Glass, right? Or is Google going to turn around and take all of the intelligence they put together, all the IP they put together for Glass and dump it into, you know what I mean? It seems like this this is something that Google could yark out in like 20 minutes of fast work.
Agreed.
You know, and especially given that they have the player, which, you know, has the audio side of things and a video gaming element, but no actual, you know, the elegant remote with voice search, the sleek and streamlined console. If you go to the, you know, google.com/nexus/player, which is kind of like their version of Amazon Fire TV. I thought it was a really curious device for Amazon to come out with, the Echo, and no battery inside of it, right? It's got to be plugged into the wall.
Yeah, yes, it has to be plugged in the wall. It looks like all those other Bluetooth speakers that have a battery, which would be kind of nice for you to be able to take it around, but it really needs Wi-Fi to do anything else, right? Except for play through Bluetooth, right? So it kind of makes a little bit more sense for it to be stationary, but yeah, and it's not charged by USB or anything. It's like a barrel connector.
Now, I want my Sonos boxes to have, you know, audio controls, to be a Sonos Play, Spotify, Bluegrass.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. I would get into that. I'm not entirely sure I want to be locked down to what little Amazon Music I have. I have accidentally
tried to say Xbox do something probably a half a dozen times, though. It's because I do that at home. That's how I control my TV at home. And now here at the office, we have the Echo that has a different start word. And then my phone, if I wanted to do that, it has a different start word. So it's getting a little bit confusing in my head in terms of which automated voice control device I'm actually attempting to control. So.
It sounds funny, but as we get more and more advanced in age, is going to be more and more of an issue as more and more competing the specs will either come together or they'll get farther and farther apart. Also, I mean, one last thing, because the thing it also made me laugh about when you go to the Amazon Echo page and you scroll down to the section that's what is Amazon Echo, and there's this list of questions next to it and commands. Will it rain tomorrow? Set an alarm for 8 a.m. Play music by Bruno Mars. How many teaspoons are in a tablespoon? Add gelato to my shopping list. Wikipedia, Abraham Lincoln. Play my dinner party playlist. When is Thanksgiving? What's the weather in Los Angeles this weekend? Add make hotel reservations to my to-do list. It's like the most bizarre collection. Like you gotta wonder what focus group this list of like commands and questions came out of. So
see,
I like
that last one. That last one would be key.
Right.
Not add make reservations to my to-do list, but make reservations at blank for 7 p.m. On Open Table, right? There you go. Boom. That is something that Google would probably be able to do really soon. Like if Google had the Echo, I could change my thermostat through it. I could say, hey, change the temperature to 72 degrees, and it would be able to do that. So
assuming Google and Nest and the Echo and your phone and all that other stuff were all, you know, relatively communicative to each other.
Yep.
Man, it's so, you know, I'm going to say it again. The Internet of Things is a hot mess. I'm also really curious to see what Amazon does with the Echo moving forward, because they have so much computing power socked away. I mean, like, there's just so many clock cycles that Amazon can tack into to do this kind of processing at any given moment. Also, thought it was interesting. The Harmony, outside Harmony remotes, they're doing the Harmony Home, and they're basically they're coming up with an API that's going to kind of tie the 270,000 devices that Harmony can already control in with Smart Home and If This Then That to try to jumpstart the whole, you know, connected home, smart home situation, which I think is going to be really interesting to see evolve. Mostly because if Harmony can tame the hell that is remotes for home theater systems, they can probably help sort out the non-communicative mess that is the connected devices in my home, my Internet of Things, and maybe even tie into the Amazon Echo. Now I'm dreaming. We should probably take a moment to thank our sponsor for today's episode, Mr. Ryan Shrout. Who do we have to thank for bringing this glorious episode of This Week in Computer Hardware to life?
This would be IT Pro TV. This is IT Pro TV is actually a video network, guys. It's dedicated to the world of IT information technology, if you will. Whether you're looking to jumpstart your career in IT or if you're already working in the field, IT Pro TV, what it does is it supplements traditional learning methods in a fun and engaging way to maximize your learning and prepare you for certification. So even though you may think you're learning everything you need to know from us, you actually need to go to IT Pro TV to learn the stuff that will actually be on those tests and will actually be useful in the workplace. They offer hundreds of hours of content, 30 hours being added every week. Their library includes video courses on Microsoft, Cisco, Apple, A+, CCNA, Security+, CISSP, and Linux+, covering topics from network security to Linux, Windows, OS X support, servers, a whole lot more. But IT doesn't have to be boring. IT Pro TV hosts tell engaging stories and share personal experiences to increase your retention. The shows are streamed live and are available on demand worldwide to your Roku, computer, or mobile device. You can also interact with hosts during the show and topic-specific web-based Q&As. If it sounds familiar, it's because the guys behind IT Pro TV are huge fans of TWiCH. They have over 10 years of experience in IT learning and were inspired by Leo. They even use the same studio setup and equipment as TWiCH. If you're already studying with a book or enrolled in a certification or technical degree program, this is a fantastic supplement to learn at your own pace and track your progress. Measure Up practice exams are also included with your subscription, as well as virtual machine sandbox lab environments for hands-on practice and learning with the HTML5 support for any OS. It's pretty cool. You get all this for one low monthly price, which includes daily updates and new features monthly. It's comparable to the cost of a study guide and much cheaper than going to IT boot camp, which sounds not very much fun just by that name. So here's how you find out about it. You go to itpro.tv/TWiCH to upgrade your brain with the most popular IT certifications recognized by employers. You're going to get a free 7-day trial when you sign up using our offer code, which will allow you to check out their courses, live stream, and more. Subscriptions are normally $57 per month or $570 for the entire year, but we have that special offer because they're huge fans of TWiCH. If you sign up now and use the code TWiCH30, that's TWICH30, you'll get 30% off your subscription for the lifetime of your account, the entirety of it. That's less than $40 per month or $399 for the entire year. And once you reach your 13th month, they will reduce your subscription rate even further, bringing your cost down to $24.95 per month or $249 for the entire year. So that URL to catch all that information and to get those discounts is itpro.tv/TWICH and use the code TWiCH30 to try it free for 7 days and save 30%. Thanks to IT Pro TV for their support of This Week in Computer Hardware. And for teaching us all valuable lessons.
There's always more learning IT. And yes, I too add my thanks to IT Pro TV for sponsoring this episode. TWiCH, TWICH at twit.tv is the email address. We like questions. We didn't really do any questions last week because we were overwhelmed with CES news. I'm going to take a moment to sneeze.
Oh, good catch. Very well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. About backup software, he writes in, thanks for the great podcast. Probably didn't hear me sneezing in this one. I listened an unhealthy amount to you guys, and I'm slowly dropping insanity as I dive deeper and deeper into the world of computer nerdery.
Oh,
I don't know whether to feel fondness about that or to feel offended because we are far, far, far over that particular mountain at this point. Do you guys have any recommendations for backup software for a Windows 8 home desktop PC? I have my critical files, photos, videos, etc. stored on an external RAID 1 array enclosure, but I want to make a backup of that as well. As well you should. That's a copy, not a backup. My preferred criteria is 1, I do not need drive imaging. I'm backing up just files. I prefer local storage. Not a huge fan of cloud-based backups. I want something to be scheduled or automated to run in the background. I prefer something that does incremental backups. I prefer something that can keep point-in-time recovery so I can recover what a file looked like 6 months ago, not just the most recent version. Therefore, something that does a dumb copy without any date or versioning will not work. Free is preferable, but I'm willing to pay up to $100 if a program is fantastic, well-supported, and reliable. I will say, there are advantages to using an offsite backup program like CrashPlan. because in case, somebody breaks into your house, if there's a flood, if there's a fire, if there's an earthquake, you kind of get the concept here. If you have a remote backup, and one of the nice things about CrashPlan is you could put a PC inside of your friend's house, or your mom's house, your cousin's house, your uncle's house. Right. You get the idea. Your place of business, and have your files backed up by a CrashPlan to that remote box. You don't necessarily have to use CrashPlan's paid system. You can do it on the cloud, or you can do it on a machine you own. But I just wanted to bring that up. It's so I'm a pretty big fan of remote backup. I'm also a pretty big fan of the IOSafe drives. If you do live in a place where disaster is part of your lifestyle, and not having a lot of bandwidth to maybe upload remotely, IOSafe's a really interesting way around that. Alan's a big fan of their stuff too, where they do like a NAS RAID box. It's fireproof and like waterproof. It's not waterproof for 2 weeks, but you'll get like 72 hours of being sunk. If you get to it within 3 days, you're in pretty good shape. It's interesting. And the advantage on that is that you've got much faster. It's much faster to move your data in your local network than it is to move it over the cloud. So
I have.
That's not really software though.
I really like the Acronis software. Acronis
absolutely.
True Image. Now, as the name implies, it's more often used for imaging, and he kind of says he doesn't want to. Kind of, is only looking to back up the data files themselves. You can configure it to do just certain files and folders and whatnot, but it does support full system disk imaging, and it has some more advanced features like its ability to restore from bare metal and all that. But it does have easy recovery, where it says that you can go back to where you were at any given moment, restore your PC in a snap with no need to reinstall your OS manually or anything else. It does have cloud backup kind of integrated with it, but you don't have to use it. It's an added cost on top of it. But it does, flexible file recovery. Choose the files or folders you want to restore and get them back without having to restore your entire system. It has personal key encryption capability, which might be something you're interested in. And then, let's see, retention schemes. Keep history of up to 20 last system states to roll back to different points in time whenever you need it. So I would say, and this is software that you can get a free trial of and look at and play around with as well. But we use it a lot here at the office for we do a lot of imaging of systems, not so much individual file backups in that regard. I'm trying to remember what the other primary competitor to them is that we have used quite often.
There's also, there's also Acronis backup and recovery. Some people really like Rebit 5, I want to say. I don't know if they're still at 5 or if they're past that one, but REB IT. That'll do continuous backup, version control. It'll support up to 3 PCs. It can do a build a recovery USB stick, which is, less about file backup and more about like system backup. But that's, Acronis backup's pretty good. Paragon's out there.
Paragon, that's another one. Yep, that was what I was trying to think of.
I'm a big fan of Acronis. Does a really nice job. Like I said, I know a lot of people who like the Rebit software. Probably not Norton Ghost.
Oh, that used to be the end all of all backup programs, but.
Shadow Protect Desktop. That was the other one I was trying to remember. I know some people who utterly swear by that. I have not used that one myself. But that's that'll do drive imaging, and it can even run up like a backup as a full machine, which is kind of interesting. It's funny. So much of the PC-based stuff at this point is so oriented towards total system recovery. In case your drive yarks,
or very much online-based, cloud-based backup. I would look at Acronis. Go to acronis.com. I think that's their URL. And then Paragon backup Software is another one. Yeah,
Acronis backup and recovery, I think, will do pretty much everything on that list. I'm 98% sure of that. Kent, and that's definitely one that's worth checking out. It's like, it's not the cheapest piece of software out there, but Acronis is they make stuff that works, which is kind of cool when you're talking about data backups.
They do a lot of updates. They were the first one to have like Windows 7 imaging capability, Windows 8 and 8.1 capability. And I imagine they'll be on that list with Windows 10 too. So definitely worth looking at.
One last question before we go. Jason's got a question about GTX 690 replacement. Hi, Ryan and Patrick. Love the show. Thank you, Jason. I have a GTX 690 feeding a 30-inch 2560 by 1600 display, and I've always experienced SLI glitches when gaming. I primarily play Battlefield 4 and World of Tanks when the issues occur. My question is, does the GTX 980 family have enough power/performance to replace a GTX 690 and still allow ultra settings? And there's a link to GPU Boss comparing.
Yeah, I put that in there.
Those two boards.
The quick answer is actually yes. So a GTX 690 is a pair of GTX 670-ish GPUs running an SLI. A single GTX 90 should have better performance than a GTX 690. And you don't have any of those complications or potential glitches or whatever when you're running multiple GPUs. So as I have often been quoted as saying on the show, always go for the single, the more expensive single GPU as opposed to the pair of lower end GPUs if you know financially it's an option and it makes sense for your configuration, right? Because you're always going to have a better experience with a single GPU, and then you just leave your room for the potential for upgrade with SLI down the road should you choose to go that route. A quick look at these two parts shows that the 980 is in fact showing better results in, say, like 3D Mark, like 3D Mark Vantage or Passmark and some of those other tests, right? So it's pretty close, but I think you'd actually see a pretty big advantage. You'd also see a big power consumption drop. You'd see a big sound level decrease, heat level decrease with that card. I know it stinks to kind of, get rid of, maybe not get rid of, but kind of deprecate something that was as cool and as awesome as a GTX 690, the kind of the return to the dual GPU flagships that we knew about. But everything has its place, and chances are if you were somebody who bought a GTX 690, you're not going to be overly upset about having to purchase a new GTX 980.
You knew it was coming.
Either. Yeah, you kind of did. That's what happens when you buy the bleeding edge.
Oh my goodness, that first one, the GTX 690, first available at Amazon.com, May 2, 2012. Man, so that card's almost 3 years old.
2.5 years. Yeah, 2.5 years plus.
That's a pretty good run for a top-of-the-line gaming card, especially given that you never would have seen a WQHD, a 2560 by 1600 display back then. Well, you might have, but
been much more rare.
Yeah.
And significantly more expensive. You also get the advantage that the 980 has 4 gigs of memory. The 690 has 4 gigs of memory, but only has 2 gigs per GPU, right? So at those higher resolutions with higher anti-aliasing settings, you're actually going to get, a better performance just because of the availability of more memory, as well as it being on a single GPU. So
it's a good thing.
Yep.
Anything exciting you can tease us about on PC Per this week?
The only thing I will say is we have a scheduled live stream on Thursday at around noon or 1 Eastern, finalizing the specific time. It will be featured around, I think it's on our calendar right now. If you go to the page, it is titled a GeForce GTX live stream with Tom Peterson. And I can tell you that there will be lots of things given away during that live stream as well. We'll have lots of hardware to be given out to people who watch the live stream. So go to PCPer.com. You'll see the schedule there, and then there's a mailing list. You can sign up if you want to make sure you are reminded of the particular starting point for that event. But that's pretty much going to be my focus from today through that particular stream on next Thursday as well.
Free stuff, ladies and gentlemen, at PC Per, but only if you are listening live. I got episode 2 of Tech Thing got posted, the new project with Shannon Morse. Very exciting. We talk about like how to kill your old passwords or dead passwords. Interesting question we got from a viewer. If you Office 365, you now get a free unlimited 1Pass drive tied into that account. And we were asked if that kills your online backup services like Crash Plan. I had Robert Heron on. He picks out a Super Bowl TV pick. Talks a little bit more in depth about quantum dots and OLED and the UHD Alliance and laser projectors, which may not be nearly as exciting as you think. It's hard to blind yourself with a laser projector. That's all I'm going to say. And we talk a little bit more about the whole Razer Cortex setup and a whole bunch more stuff. And that's at TEKTHING.com or youtube.com/C/techthing. And we want to thank everybody who joins in for that one. We appreciate it, each and every one of you. Ladies and gentlemen, Twitch happens each and every week on the TWiCH TV network. Twit.tv/Twitch is the place to find us. All of our old episodes and all of the links you need to subscribe to the show and get it into iTunes or whatever your favorite podcatcher is. Ryan Shrout is always available at PCPer.com. You can find me at TechThing.com. And I think we want to thank each and every one of you for listening to Twitch because it's fun. Bring it to you each and every week. I'm Patrick Norton.
Yep. I'm Ryan Shrout.
We'll see you next week on Twitch.